4, 3, 2, 1. Anyway, I'm going to not say anyway. Okay, here we go. One of the main Jesus. Outtakes and bloopers. All right. I'll edit all it out. Okay. Well, all right.
Now, at this point, you always have to leave it in.
Well, I wasn't conscious of even being on the mic until I had a blip on the radar here on the mixer. Okay. Yeah. Welcome to episode 3 of In Deep with Dan. I am so glad you found your way here. I'm so glad you found your way back if you've listened to the prior episodes. Either way, welcome, and let's go in deep. What you just heard a few moments ago was what is called an outtake for you audio newbies. I included that just to prove that not everything goes the way it's planned during the recording of a show. I got a really kind note from a listener and future guest the other day who suggested that things might be scripted here. The quips that we say, the jokes we end up telling, it is not scripted. It's all conversations, just like we would have at a bar or in a living room or in some public park somewhere. I don't know. If I'd scripted it, I guess I would know, but I don't. I do edit out things like long pauses, ums and ahs, that kind of stuff. But aside from that, what's said is said. I don't dub anything new into the conversation. I might someday, but I'd announce that as an insertion. I also got a great note from my niece Melissa, who just had a baby. Big shout out to Anchorage, Alaska. She said the kid likes to sleep to my voice. When she turns the show off, the kid wails, turns it back on, and the kid's out like a light. I think I have this effect on adults, too. I'm like an audio hot water bottle. For those of you too young to know what that means, it's like being a human sedative. Really quite amazing. So if you're driving and the sound of my voice is making you tired, for goodness sake, flip over to some metal or EDM or whatever gets you rocking, then come back, and we'll continue. I'll wait. Okay, go ahead and pause now. Okay, you're back? Great. This week's guest is Ian Conley. Our talk was wonderful. We could have driven down the chat highway for days. If you listened to it, you might feel we did just that, while you were strapped to the hood, prone to the oncoming wind, staring through the windshield at us. Enjoy the ride. This talk was recorded several weeks ago, prior to football season starting, so that explains our reference to looking forward to football season starting, because the U.S. season has already begun as you are hearing this, unless it's next year, just before football has begun and you're way behind. So, happy binging to get caught up to the year 2047. I don't know. Before we get to the talk with Ian and me, I want to share a few things that have been swirling around my mind since the last time you and I talked. And that is the following question. What is the value of belief? How is belief achieved? How can belief skew us toward a bias away from or perhaps to the truth? And let's not specifically talk about truth because that's a topic for another intro for another show. Recent polls asking people if they believe Brett Kavanaugh or his accuser, or Chris Hardwick or Chloe Dykstra, or Asia Argento and her then 17-year-old accuser. Does it matter what people believe? It really matters at the polls, certainly, but does it matter with regard to actual justice being served? Where does belief sit with regard to due process? And is it possible to be both on the side of victims and justice? I think it is. I think it has been. I think that's the way it is supposed to be. Just mind your pitchforks. Or mind other people's pitchforks coming at you, because eventually they will. And you may or may not be guilty, and you may or may not have access to due process based on your social status, your race. Who knows? My opinion on all this has not wavered since I came of age. I don't care what the topic is. Due process is due process. This is what the Greeks had in mind. This is what the founders had in mind regarding our justice system. We're slipping back into barbarism, mob mentality. The mob doesn't know they are part of a mob. They just think they're in a righteous group and the end justifies the means. It rarely does. Pent-up anger over true injustice can spill out in horrific, unjust ways. As I mentioned, the impact of belief on voting is clear. And I'm not talking about any given election, but rather all elections. Influencing someone's beliefs impacts how they vote more than any presentation of factual evidence. Actual evidence is not necessary to sway anyone in what they believe, which kind of blows my mind. But then I'll look at my own beliefs and wonder where the hell they came from. At first, they came from my parents, then they came from my immediate peer group, then back to my parents, then outward, inward through media. Right? We rarely believe something based on our own arrival at those beliefs through our own independent study or through meditating on something over a long period of time. Most of these are shoved down our throats. So again, actual evidence is not necessary to sway anyone in what they believe. Remember this when you choose to support something or to vilify something based on the direction that you get from the world spin doctors. They have their own agendas. You are part of that agenda. Congratulations. This is not to say that belief has no value as a thing. Far from it. Belief can drive change for the better. If belief is positive, it can save lives. It can improve lives. It can, in essence, create truth. Real truth brought about by action based on your beliefs, which in turn was powered by belief. Okay. That's the beauty of the human mind. The takeaway here is we should be aware of the difference between belief and reality. Awareness is a running theme of these intros. The only thing I want to tell you to think is to think, to be aware, to question everything. And that's this week's In Deep Thought. Recently, one of my daughters asked me if I am only going to talk to women on the show or if I will also talk to men. I have no bias against men, although I admit I tend to have deeper conversations with women in general. It may be because women have deeper conversations across the board. Perhaps they are more comfortable with speaking about emotions, about matters of depth. Maybe it's due to cultural factors, how they're brought up. Maybe they're just smarter. I don't know. Which brings us to today's guest. Ian Conley is not one to shy away from a deep conversation, whether it's about board gaming, cosplay, anime, video games, drinking, plenty of drinking, eluding friends bent on protecting him. He'll let you know what's what. So here's a little bio I got about Ian. He is known as Ian Conley, a.k.a. unfortunately also known as Daddy or Trump Daddy, due to poor life choices and friends who support these choices out of amusement. His friends are deeply concerned for his health. They often hear him getting into extremely emotional and deep conversations over his favorite anime girl and why his favorite anime is the best. He was once heard screaming, "My waifu is better than yours," to which the police officer quickly tased him after responding to a report about a crazed man trying to rob a Taco Bell after being told, "Sir, we don't serve Jaeger bombs here." You can also hear him screaming from 10 miles away, complaining about the Packers' defense and how a random guy chugging beer in the stands would play better. From my own perspective, I can tell you this guy exudes charm. Editing the episode, I was taken aback. Enjoy the talk. It's a long one today, so many of you may need a couple of days of drive time to get through it all. Let it wash over you. Consider it a binge event, maybe like a book on tape. The beauty of a podcast, like a Netflix show episode, is there's no rule about length. This episode just happens to be a little longer than most. The next one, I don't know. I'll see you on the other side.
Perfect.
Well, thank you.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me here, man. It's great to be here. It actually worked out kind of great that you had extra couple minutes in between this because as I was getting everything set up, my computer was being really goofy, and Alexa perked up because I changed the her name, and so she's just sitting there like, "Yes, what can I do for you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I probably don't want that going off during this because
Oh,
we'll
funny.
definitely not say the computer word at all this entire conversation."
Yeah. Echo, echo, echo. Yeah, I changed mine to Echo a while ago because everything on Netflix seemed to say Alexa. And so she'd be like, I don't know what you want me to do.
I had a great experience with that actually, and it was while I was watching anime in Japanese. Uh, and it was funny because the show I was watching was about like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So then suddenly Alexa's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand you," and I'm like, "Okay." So I rewinded the scene and I played it again, and it kept picking it up, and Alexa kept saying different things, and that's kind of when I got a little scared of it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, just kind of.
Someone at a black site was screwing with you that night.
It was probably the FBI agent who's deeply concerned about some choices I've made in life.
Uh,
That's probably the only.
yeah. Well, I can't remember when the last time we talked. It was probably back in 2013. I mean, actually talked.
Yeah, no, it's definitely had to been back. Probably the help desk. Good old place. Good
Yeah.
times there. Definitely never had any regrets at the job or made any poor life decisions. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, not at all. I liked your topic idea for tonight as well. Talk about anything you want, but the idea, a couple of things. One was the geek culture then and now. That
Yeah.
that made me smile. And of course,
That's
I want to
good.
explore the whole anime topic because my guess is you could shed some light for me on some things.
Oh man, I could go. Can we get like another 5 hours?
I think we can. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you're the last one for the night, so there's only hard drive space as my limitation.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking about like what would be a fun conversation to have. 'Cause I was like, I don't want to go in here and have some boring topic, and I'm like, oh, he's a nerdy guy, and I'm a nerdy guy from two different generations. I think there's something that could work there.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I say we dive right into it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Oh,
So
good.
what are you up to in Nerd Town these days?
Nerdtown, it's all over the place, really. Between going to a lot of different anime conventions with friends, going to comic conventions, been getting into board games a whole lot more again. I was
Mm.
really into different board games during college, and when I started working, getting that first big boy job and stuff like that, I kind of fell off because it's kind of hard to find 8 hours to sit down with a group of people and play some of the longer board games. But between that, anime conventions, getting into different activities like going to different cosplay photo shoots, stuff like that with some friends, really trying to get all over the place with everything I'm getting into. I'm getting back into comics, and my apartment definitely is unique looking right now. You'd think you'd walk into a teenager's room, and then you're like, hey, this is like a almost 30-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, my feeling on that is it's all fun. And I'll have people my age or slightly less who say,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just, these guys just don't want to grow up now. I'm like, well, let's hold on there. I mean, you in your fantasy football league and you in your golf outings when you're super into it. I mean, everybody has something that they want to be into for entertainment and escape and not you know as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. One isn't any
Oh,
better or
absolutely.
worse than anything else.
Oh, absolutely. I joke with some of my friends that fantasy football is just the pussy version of Dungeons and Dragons. You're looking at
Yeah.
numbers and stats, and they're very similar things. It's just slap a different skin on it.
Right.
And love doing both. I'm in multiple fantasy leagues. Spent the last weekend drafting for 4 or 5 different leagues, and then I got a Dungeons and Dragon campaign starting up in a couple months. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I
And
didn't. I tried to get into Munchkins, but I am way too analytical. So like this is about like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe not that long, but I watched some like Will Wheaton battling.
Oh yeah, his tabletop gaming channel.
Yeah. And like
Yeah,
him and Felicia Day or something, like, okay, I can get this. And then I'm like, I don't know
yeah.
what the rules are. And then
Mhm.
there was a like 3.5 hour rules video on YouTube. And I made it about 45 minutes in. I'm like, this isn't grabbing me. So I just need to sit down with somebody to play it, and then I'll know.
That is one of the most daunting things about getting into a new board game. As I'm looking at my wall of board games right now, for some friends of mine, we really like playing a game called Arkham Horror.
Mhm.
And Arkham Horror is a cool. Why can't I think of? I'm completely blanking on his name now. With Cthulhu and all that stuff.
Oh, Lovecraft.
Lovecraft, yeah. It's a great Lovecraft setting and super fun game to play. It takes maybe 4 to 5 hours for a game, but the most daunting thing is that it takes about an hour and a half to set up everything. And then you basically have to assign everyone a huge rule book to try to make sure that you aren't accidentally cheating. And so
Oh,
it gets interesting getting in there, like, because it's you against the board type thing, and you're trying to win, but there's 1,500 different rules you got to remember, and you can be 3.5 hours into a game, and then you're like, we cheated like 2 hours ago and we lost. We just
oh
played.
yeah.
And then
Nobody
you're like,
knew, but now it's too late. And
and then you kind of get in the situation where you're like, well, don't really want to restart another game. Let's
the,
spend another 25 minutes packing the game up.
the cancer has spread. We're done.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I think it's more enjoyable now. Like I found in the board gaming field, it's a lot more entertaining to play a game that's about like anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour, because then you're investing a little bit of time, but you still have time to do something else while you're playing board games, and that's always
Yeah.
nice.
And that's how we got into Catan,
Hmm.
because that, we banged a game out in an hour and a half tops, I think it was. Went and bought the expansion pack to support up to whatever it was, 5 to 7, whatever the,
Hmm.
the add on is. Just
Yeah,
makes a bigger hexagon, which is cool.
yeah. So
Um, yeah, but and not a
it,
hell of a lot of rules, and all the cards say what the rules are based on the thing you're about to do. So you can kind of
oh,
be an idiot and
absolutely.
play the thing and have fun.
It's funny that you brought up Catan, because that's one of my like vetoed games that I cannot play for at least like another 5 years, because for some reason Catan, it's a very simple game, but with my friends it draws an inner rage out of
Yeah,
you at some points. Like, I don't know what it is. There's a couple games like, have you ever played Carcassonne?
no, mm-mm.
Carcassonne is it's kind of in the similar genre, where basically you try to block off like areas, grids on a board, and if you complete it, that counts towards like victory points for you. And if you don't complete it, like, people can block you and ruin maybe like 10, 20 turns worth of effort. And it's
I
one of
love
those
it.
things where it's like the long game. You watch someone, you're watching them, and you're waiting, and you can see the excitement getting going on their face. They're like, I'm going to complete this. I get it. And then you just block everything, and they lose all hope, and they just fall into a pit of despair. And
I
for some
love it.
reason, that game, I have never complained so much about a board game. But I've only played it like 3 or 4 times, and I've won every single time.
Oh
But
my god,
during each of those games, I would just be sitting there complaining like, "Oh, this is bullshit. This is not fun. This is stupid. I just spent all this time working on it, and you just ruined all my fun. I'm not having fun." And it's like, "Hey, Ian, you won," and you just sit there and you're like, "Oh, I'm that asshole who just complained the entire time, and now."
and look at me.
Uh,
Oh, that sounds fun. Check that
yeah.
out. I mean, but you kind of bring up a good point. Well, no, you very much bring up a good point about the shorter games in general. Not, I think it's somewhat related to the level of complexity of the game. They should go hand in hand. So it shouldn't take. I mean, an hour and a half setup for a 4 hour game is kind of pushing the limits of. I mean, you really got to be into it. Like that's got to be your game. That was what
Oh, exactly.
Arkham Horror you were saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Arkham Horror,
So
and then there's
I mean,
you could do it in a shorter amount of time, but it's like there's so many different decks of cards and stuff like that. It's much better just to have everything neatly organized and
yeah.
set up, because one of the biggest things you have to worry about when you're playing board games is you got to make sure that you're keeping everyone involved and interested.
Hmm, okay.
Uh, because the longer you play a game, if you're not keeping each player invested in the game. They kind of start like, oh, it's not my turn for like another 5 minutes, and they pull out their phone, they start flipping on their phone, and it gets their turn, and they're like, oh, what happened? Somebody fill me in.
Yeah.
And so I find that you have a less likely chance of that happening when it's between like half an hour to an hour, because
Sure.
even then, if they maybe aren't having that much fun with the game, or it's not really their flavor, they can at least get through it.
Well, plus I think the people I would be likely to play with would end up so drunk after 4 hours that they couldn't even play anymore. I mean, at least in an hour and a half, you have a shot at they can like walk away from the table.
Oh yeah, and thankfully, the people I play board games with, we'll have a couple beers or something like that. But these guys are pretty hardcore into the board games and what they like playing, and so it's much more enjoyable. You don't have to worry about someone being completely wasted, knocking the board off the table, any of that stuff. And there are some games where that is super fun, though.
Oh, sure. I think any could be modified where that's fun. And another thing with these too is the level of time it takes to like the two sides of me are I love to be fully immersed in a game.
Yeah.
But the flip side is the more contemporary, but shit, I want to do a lot of stuff. I want to be, I can't be like all in on, on Red Dead Redemption and No Man's Sky. I know I'm switching to video games here. And
yeah, no, it all works.
Destiny and all of them. You got at some point you got to pick 2 or 3 that you can become so enamored with that you like feel a part of that world. Because I'm all about the immersion in it, whether it's in the video game milieu or in the board game where you just believe it's all happening because that's the whole fun of it.
Yeah.
So that's a thing you can't really get out of the quick dive games, the hour and a half so much. I mean, those are more about the competition and the camaraderie of the people around the table than the longer games are a little more equitable with all of that plus the I'm a hobbit or whatever I am.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with that. I'm actually kind of running through that situation right now where I've been dedicating myself so much into one game. And actually, funny enough, it is No Man's Sky, because
Hells yeah.
since they came out with that last patch and added multiplayer, I'm in there with my buddies and we'll be flying around, and you just get so sucked into it. And then I'll get on it after work, and then I'll look at my clock and I'm like, oh crap, it's 11:30 at night. I haven't even made dinner yet. This is awkward.
Yeah, because of the podcast, I haven't played. It was 3 weeks ago yesterday, and it's just killing me. But between work and getting all this set up, and then a guy at work, Juan, if you're listening, I'm blaming you, but he'll say, "Hey, I've got a 32 slot exo-suit." And I'm like, "Fuck you." I would. I know I wouldn't, but he was doing the trick where he would go multiplayer, go into another system and just keep banging on the the space stations,
all the space stations,
fortresses, and then flipping out of there. And so he is just maxed. I mean, he doesn't have 14 freighters or anything like that, but I mean, when I bowed out, I had 3 ships, and by bowed out I thought I would be playing the next day, but I had three ships, and I have the ground vehicle, and I'm not doing poorly, but I just got to get my ass back in there.
That's the same thing with one of my buddies, my buddy Evan. I play No Man's Sky with him a lot, and he'd log on. I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll join you for a little bit. Why not? This will be fun. And he'll be like, we started gaining the cargo spots on your exosuit about the same time.
Yep.
And I maybe have like 8 or 9 right now. 2 days later, I catch him and he's like, yeah, so I have max slots for my cargo. And I'm like, did you skip work? Did you not go to your job? Like, no, I just flew around. Like that's a little bit more than flying around. Flying around is like I'm taking a trip from planet A to planet B. This is like you sat down and I don't think you slept.
No, he must. I mean, that's like an 8 to 10 hour minimum 6, but probably 6 to 8 of you're just going back and forth and just getting it done. I mean, you have to have an agenda.
Well, it does start getting really expensive buying all those extra slots at this space stations, and so what he started doing was finding all those drop pods, and I'm sitting there like I can't even I'm having trouble finding blueprints to find a drop pod, and you're off here finding them all everywhere. And it's a cruel world it is gaming.
It's fun. I mean, one night I got bored and was early on, maybe halfway through my No Man's Sky career, and I went flying around on like the poison planet I happened to be on, and I was finding everything just by seeing it out the window, and I'm like, oh my god. And the big eggs, the big bamboo trees or whatever they are, just
Yeah.
everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm rich. And I mean, it was just like, thanks. So I was able to get up at that time, got my exo-suit up to 9 slots or whatever in that one sitting.
Hmm.
Got a better ship because I happened upon a crashed one that I didn't even have to use my signal booster to find. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, this is a good one. Quickly got it running just enough to go camp at a space station and wait for a better one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what ended up happening to me. I ended up finding a rank A ship, but it was just so beat to hell. There's no way at the beginning of the game. You don't have any of the resources to fix those ships. I mean, they want like several thousand pieces of chromium, and you're like, I don't have this. I'm not going to be able to afford this anytime soon.
Yeah.
And so I did the swap out the A for cheaper A, and now what I'm trying to do is get one of those big 48 plus 8 cargo
Oh,
ships,
yeah.
but now it's like, okay, now I got to save up to 126 million, and
And by the way, what are you playing on? I'm on PS4.
I'm on PC
Okay. Yeah.
because a lot of the guys I play, I'm on a TeamSpeak server. I know, using old technology,
No,
TeamSpeak.
I remember.
I get
Yeah.
I got yelled at by a younger person I play another game with. I think he's in his early 20s, and he's like, "You still use TeamSpeak?" And I'm like, "Hey man, TeamSpeak was clutch in my time." And he's like, "That's all about Discord." I'm like, "I use Discord too," and I just felt really defensive in that moment, like he was
Yeah, I
attacking
know how
me.
to Discord, man. I can Discord with the best of them. Discord is funny because when I used to use it, it was not a
Mhm.
social destination. It wasn't a social media place, but now it is.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep up on.
Yeah.
I'll look at my phone because I'm in the Band of Gamers Discord, which is
Okay, so that's probably going off like
yeah,
crazy.
and those guys are great, but they're very active in there. So I'll get all kinds of, hey,
Yeah.
who's playing tonight and whatever. And I'm like, I still cannot bring myself to mute that stuff. I want to know. Plus, they talk about beer, so and music.
There you go.
On the sub discords
Hmm.
that they have going on. It's like Reddit in
Hmm.
your ear holes. It's great.
Oh yeah, I had to disable the notifications on my phone, and I still get them all coming to my email and everything. But it was getting to the point where at work my phone would just keep lighting up, and I wouldn't know if it was something important. And it's like, oh, it's just Discord. Oh well, I'll take a peek. And then I was realizing at work, I'm like, I'm on my phone a lot. I should probably be keeping this down. And I absolutely love Discord. But going back to TeamSpeak, we got a big group of guys who all play MechWarrior Online
Oh
there,
yeah,
and so whenever we kind of decide to pick up a new game, it's kind of like, okay, we have to kind of have the debate of like, okay, who's going to play this? Are we getting it on PC? Are we getting it on Xbox? Are we getting it on PlayStation? Someone will be like, I don't have an Xbox. I'll be like, okay, cross out Xbox. And someone will be like, my PS4 is broken, or something like
hmm
that. And you always got to kind of finagle with everybody, like, okay, can everyone participate?
right. And that's the whole reason for owning different, more or less, for owning different
Yeah.
platforms. I mean, I picked PlayStation early on, and then
Mhm.
when we worked together, I picked it again because everybody was still doing that. So that's when I got the PS4. But now that's aging out. I uh, I
Yeah.
have a new PC picked out, not specifically just for gaming, also for what I'm doing now. But
Uh-huh.
I'm going to hold off a few more weeks or a month or something. But I am classically a PC gamer, so I would much rather be PC gaming. Just it's so much for me, the controls of the keyboard and the mouse and the customization, the environment of sitting close to my monitor and being immersed and all of that.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. When I was younger, I was sold on the Xbox from day one because my dad had managed to get into the Xbox Live beta testing, and so we were one of the first people on Xbox Live, and then just ran into Halo and stuck with Xbox pretty much all the way through to college, and then something clicked at college, and bam, it was switching to PC. But the kind of funny thing I find that I do is for some games I'll actually hook up a Xbox controller to my
Mm-hmm.
computer, so I'll still be playing on my computer, but like for example, like playing Rocket
Oh,
League.
okay.
I don't know if you've ever played Rocket
I've
League,
watched quite a bit of
but
it, but I have not played it.
not playing it with a controller is an absolute nightmare. It is. I played the first couple games. I'm like, I'm going to try this with the keyboard. I think I can do it. And I couldn't do anything in the game. And everyone's yelling at me, "Get the hell out of the game! You suck!" And I plug in an Xbox controller. I'm like, "Oh, this is much better now.
Nice. Yeah,
This is
I
nice."
have friends who do that too, and whether it's an Xbox controller or sometimes a PS4 controller, and I mean they have every way in to use whatever their favorite controller is from their
Mm-hmm.
console. And I love that because I have nothing against the console. And to be quite honest, in the I have a finished basement and I have a 55-inch 4K in there. And
Mm-hmm.
so I will slide the $20 black cushy Walmart foam chair right up to the thing. And I'll bring up a little table so I have my No Man's Sky cheat sheet in an acrylic sign holder. I'll have to send you a
There you
picture,
go.
maybe put it out with the show notes, but so I can reference it quickly. And I don't anymore because I know the stuff on it. But early on, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if I need to craft a chromium, whatever it was, I wanted to know right
Mm-hmm.
then. But if I'd been at my desk with my PC, all of that, I could have had stuff going on in another monitor. I could have had, I tried it.
You're all tabbing, typing up like,
Yeah, or just use my,
I need to beat a blue star
yeah.
system. Damn it.
And I tried it. I have a little Chromebook, so I tried that next to me on a different table, but it was just too weird, like stopping, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wasn't into it. But anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to digress about the world of controllers and on PCs, but it is cool.
I find it kind of funny though. Since we brought up consoles, I find it kind of funny that a lot of people for a long time were making fun of people like, oh, you're getting an Xbox One. Oh, they're just it's just a media device. It's not even really meant for gaming or anything, and they were ragging it on it for that. And then now I go to my Xbox and I mainly use it for watching my
Mm,
anime, watching Netflix, watching Hulu,
sure.
watching Amazon Instant Video, and
Well, and
it's
and
kind of
that's
funny.
exactly what Microsoft wants you to do, and I don't think that's a bad thing to be so into their ecosystem, especially now with their rent to own. I don't know what they're calling it, but the new program they're coming out with where you get what's it called, the Xbox game package,
Yeah, you get the Game
Game
Pass
Pass. So
thing.
you get Game Pass and either an Xbox One S or an Xbox One X. Am I saying those right? Probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know what you're
And
talking
like
about. Yeah, I saw that
one is
initial video.
22 a month and one is 30. I'm making up the numbers, but and then after
Yeah,
2 years you own the console. But it's a good gateway in because a lot of people would have that membership anyway, and it's very much
yeah.
along the lines of a cell phone purchase. The same kind of thing. So
Yeah, I mean that's what I do with my phones now. I'll just do
yep,
the monthly payment and on it and trade up every year because I don't know if you do this. Do you trade up your phone as soon as you can?
I don't, and my wife
Okay.
doesn't either. We wait. The phone I have right now, I like. My wife liked
Hmm.
hers. Actually, my daughter had an accident with hers in a lake. So my wife gave
Okay.
her phone and then went and got a different phone for herself. But it wouldn't. It's not something she would have done if there hadn't been some kind of accident to the phone.
Gotcha. And the reason I kind of asked is I found that I end up spending so much time at my in my phone, whether I'm at work, whether I'm getting paid to
Sure.
poop. The super important things. I'm using my phone so much. It in my car. I'm always either listening to audiobooks or have music going through Bluetooth, and so I kind of got into this mentality of I always want to try to have a nicer phone. I want to try to keep up with technology, and so for the last couple of years, I'd upgraded. Like when the S6 came out, S7, S8, I just traded it in right away, and I just kind of put that under a cost of life
Sure.
type thing. And then this year, or I decided when the S9 came out, I liked the S8 Plus a lot, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep the S8 Plus and rock that, and maybe skip a phone
Hmm.
generation. 2 weeks later, after I do that, I start getting pixel loss on my phone and all these different bugs.
On the new
And I'm
phone.
like, okay. No, on the when I decided to keep the S8, I decided to keep the S8
Oh, I
Plus
gotcha.
because I'd already had it for a year. And when I had the option to move to the S8 S9, I was like, nah, I'll keep it. And 2 weeks later, I get pixels glitching out on me on my phone, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to take it in. And they boot it up, they see the pixel loss, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's a damaged phone now. We can't do this without you paying up a
Mhm.
bunch of money." And I was sitting there, and I'm just like, the one time I tried to be like, I'll stick with this phone for a little bit longer, and I get burned.
Yeah, I mean, my two reasons for ever upgrading our, one is if there's something weird like that, but the other is, or, that I can't solve somehow myself, determine that it's actually hardware. But the other is if the OS has
Mhm.
just gone beyond the capabilities of the phone, because then I start feeling like I'm missing out. I'm like, well, what if that guy can
Yeah,
do that thing on the phone? I want to do that thing.
that's definitely a big part for me. Is I always want to have the latest technology, and that's not saying I'm going to go out and buy, like, for example, like my gaming computer. This thing has been rocking solid for a good 5 years now, and I'm not going to go replenish that right away. But I figure most people usually have that one thing that they want to keep up to
Yeah.
date or fancy.
And that is the thing though with gaming PCs too, because I'm in the boat where I've had my PC for 5 years, and so now I have to get a 1060i or whatever it is, 1080i
Mhm.
card at least. Nothing of the brand new generation that came out a couple weeks ago.
I was going to say you don't want to get that 2000
No.
series. Go top of the line,
Yeah, I don't.
4K white,
Yeah, no, I don't.
everything.
I really don't want to pay $1,200 to $2,000 for a video card. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I have a very hard time justifying paying that much for a graphics
yeah.
card because I have a 980 Ti in this computer, and those were expensive when they first came out. Uh, but it just so happened that I ended up getting the graphics card through HP actually, and they had a 30% off sale,
Oh wow.
and so I got the card for 30% off, and then get an email a few weeks later saying there's a big delay in the shipment
Hmm.
and everything, and it ended up being delayed for about a month. Well, after a month, I give them a call. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm going to cancel my order. And they say, oh, no, no, just stick with us and we'll give you another 10%
Wow.
off. I'm like, 10% off? That's pretty good. And then 2 weeks passed and still nothing. Uh, I called and they're like, sorry, we'll give you another 10% off. So at this point, they're basically getting a 980 Ti for 50% off. And they're like, we'll absolutely have it to you by the end of the month, and which was about 2.5 weeks away. And that worked out nicely because the next day I was leaving for Japan for 2.5 weeks. I'm like, well, that works out perfect. I don't need the
Yeah,
card till then, anyways. And otherwise, I would never have had. I probably wouldn't have got it. But then 980 Ti, prime
sure.
time, 50% off.
Yeah, you stole it from some cryptocurrency miner. Shame on you.
Ooh, thankfully, that was like just before
For
before
the
the
spike.
graphics
Yeah.
cards went through the graphics card gate or whatever you want to
Yep.
call it, because it was getting ridiculous. Where some of those cheap graphics cards that should have maybe be $140 going for like
Oh yeah.
560. That was absolutely ridiculous.
There are guys making fortunes on eBay. Just buying those up and selling them when they saw it. When it was hot.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. For a while, I was tempted. I was like, do I jump up to the 980 Ti? And I was like, well, the 1080 Ti, and I was like, oh, the 980 Ti is still really good. It hits all the benchmarks. And then you saw the price of the 1080 Ti, and just no way you could justify it. You had to
Right.
take out a second
Yeah.
mortgage.
So where are you now in the world of anime? Are you still doing the anime Milwaukee stuff?
I am definitely still. I have retired from working at cons. I still go to Anime Milwaukee, Anime Central. Go to a one in Ohio, a couple more in Wisconsin. I still absolutely love going to them because honestly, they're one of the few times where it's
Hmm.
party central, and it seems weird when you think of a bunch of anime nerds sitting there partying. Uh, but these conventions can get pretty intense.
Yeah, it doesn't seem weird to me, but then again, I used to go to science fiction conventions in the '80s, when I was in high school, and I mean, it's all just fun. People into their stuff. Now you
Oh
mentioned.
yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Oh,
Oh,
you go.
I was gonna say you were talking about going around to different cosplay stuff. Do you do any costuming, or you just kind of you grab the Trump mask and head for the bar?
I used to like cosplaying a lot in the early years, doing different outfits. I did a really fun version from an anime called Trigun. I did a cool version of a character, Vanished Stampede, and I really enjoyed that. But then it was just it became so much work, getting set up in the outfit, getting all the pieces set and everything. It's a huge commitment. I mean,
Oh yeah,
cosplayers spend dozens of hundreds of hours just making their outfit, and then takes a while to get put on. It's a lot of work, and it gets hot in those things. And So for me, it was much easier to don the Trump mask and walk around scaring anime, poor little anime people.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
they're sitting there trying to have fun at the anime convention, and they see a guy in a Trump mask walking around, and they go, "Ah, who the hell is this dickbag?"
Yeah. It's a good conversation starter. I'm sure you got a lot of ladies.
It's a very unique situation, and I'll share one story with you because I think you'll truly appreciate this one. We're up in the room, doing shots, drinking, and we decided to go walk around the con floor where they're selling all the anime goodies and stuff like that, keychains, figurines, all that stuff. And it's later at night. Uh, and we walk by this couple, and what I like to do is I like to just walk up to people and just start saying ridiculous one-off Trump quotes. And it's not trying to make a political statement or anything.
Yeah.
I purely just do it for the comical nonsense that it is. It's just absolute silliness.
And it's also to the
And
spirit of cosplay. I mean, you're being your character.
oh, I go all out with it. I got gold pants. I have this really nice like male corset that makes me look like emperorish, and I'll just go over the top. And I got one of those, and I got one of those "Make America Great Again" hats, and I'll put it on like random people cosplaying. So my buddy likes to cosplay as this character from a basketball anime, and the character is like a really shy, quiet kind of person. And so for the people who have seen the show, seeing him with that hat on is just like you're just sitting there like you're lost, you're confused, you have no clue what's going on. It's silly. But so we're a group of us are walking, hit the con floor, and I see this guy and this girl, and they're being like looking kind of awkward around each other. And I just walk up and I'm like, I think you two should start dating. You look like you'd make a great couple. And they just kind of stare at me awkwardly. And I'm like, well, are you guys dating? And they're like, no, we're not dating. I'm like, well, you should start dating. You guys look like you're really into each other. And a couple more jokes went on. Don't want to go too much into it. But then, so next year, uh, do the same routine, get way too drunk, and then decide to walk around the con and have the same buddies with me. And these two people walk up to me and like, "Oh my gosh, are you the guy who was doing Trump last year?" And I'm like, "Well, I have the Trump mask on, obviously." They're like, "We totally took your advice. We started dating like 2 weeks after that." And
Wow.
I'm sitting there going, and I'm confused because I didn't originally remember meeting them the first time because
Oh,
I
sure.
was drunk. But all of my buddies were like, "No, this happened." They're like, and they gave me the step by step on how everything worked out, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't remember meeting you, but I didn't want to say that out loud.
Oh, sure.
Don't want to ruin his beer. I'm like, of course you guys would start dating. It's me, Trump. I know best, of course. Play it into the spiel and everything like that, and I just walk away from them going, those two need to get married
You better go
because
back.
they're gonna have the greatest wedding story ever. How did you two meet? Trump told us we should start dating.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good. That's up there on origin stories.
sure. Everyone appreciates the man's wisdom and knowledge of human relationships. So yeah, who would say no?
I gotta walk away from that mask though before I get in too much trouble. One other quick one was this was at Anime Milwaukee a few years ago, and at anime conventions I have this problem where I'm hanging out with friends and I tend to wander or disappear from the group, and so
Yes,
sometimes they'll give Ian a designated caretaker, like okay, you got to watch over him, make sure he doesn't get in any trouble, don't do anything stupid, don't get arrested.
all good
So
advice. Good friends.
I end up losing my caretakers, and long story short, I do end up in the police station. Not because I did anything wrong, but there was a bit of a situation where I ended up having some money stolen from me.
Ooh,
And so I'm upset. I want to report it to the police. I'm like, money got stolen from me. I want to report it. And this is downtown at the Wisconsin Center, and the police Milwaukee Police Department is like right by the courthouse right there. My brilliant idea, as I'm intoxicated, wearing a Thanks Obama T-shirt with my Trump mask on, wearing a kilt,
all right. I like it. Good
decide
visual.
decide decide I'm going to walk to the police station and I'm going to file a police report on this. Somebody stole money from me. I'm upset. So walk into the police station, and you could immediately tell on the police officer's face. He's just like, "Oh no, what am I getting into?" And I think I'm gonna nail this. And as I'm trying to explain everything to the police officer, I'm like, I am really drunk, and he is looking at me very concerned. So he's like, he makes me tell the story a couple times, like replaying everything that happened, and he's like, why don't you? It's kind of late. Why don't you sober up a little bit? Come back in the morning, and if you still want to file a police report, then you can. So while this is going
Odd.
on, my friends are freaking out. They're trying to ask, like, texting me, calling me, Ian, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? After I finish the conversation with the lovely police officer, I see all the messages. I call them out, and my first reaction is, I'm at a police station,
Sure.
and they're just like, oh no. He finally crossed the line. He finally did something that he shouldn't have done at the anime convention. I still, to this day, the police officer gave me his card. It was police officer Getman. I'm not sure if it's Getman or Geitman, but ever since then, I've always carried his police officer card in my wallet as a reminder: don't do stupid things at anime conventions.
Yeah.
Don't get in trouble.
Plus the psychological horror of your lost caretaker. Now, did you lose them on purpose, or did you pull a slip away? Because back in the day that was my jam. So what I did was I'd be out with friends, big group of friends, and then they divide off into two. One group would want to go like after bar party somewhere, and the other group would want to go get something to eat, and they'd be like, hey man, you really got to give me your keys. And I'd be like, well, I'm going with those guys, so why don't I give them the keys, and then I'll wave to you so I gave them the keys. So they're like, okay. We'd be across the street, so I'd run across the street and I'd dangle my keys in the air so the people that I just came from would see them, and then I'd go to the new group and I'd say, hey, I'm going to go eat with those guys. You can't drive. No, they're, I'm going to get my keys to those guys. But see these keys right here. And I wave them, and then I'd like hug the person. So then the other group moved off, and I'd say, oh, I got to catch up with them. See ya. And then I'd run in the, mostly toward them, but then I'd veer off and I'd be gone. And bad things would happen. I'm not going to go into it, but so I would on purpose lose my tail, so to speak.
Yeah, this is a good shout out to my buddy Dan Barrera, because to this day he still doesn't forgive me for it. So he was my designated make sure I don't go anywhere, wander off, and it was my buddies Brad, Dan, and Dan. And we're all in the hotel room. Like, everyone kind of split up. We're gonna do like a 15-minute break, drink a couple beers, whatever, and relax, let our feet rest. And Dan Barrera he stands up. He's like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and he looks me dead in the eyes, and he says, Ian, don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Do not go anywhere. And I'm like, no, promise.
Of course not.
Won't go anywhere. Won't do anything. He's like, you know what, Ian, come in the bathroom with me. He's like, you'll go stand in the shower. We'll close the curtains, and you'll stay there while I go to the bathroom. It's like, I don't want to be in there when you go to the bathroom, man. He's like looking at me dead serious, like, no, you get in the bathroom with me.
Nice.
I'm like, no, I swear on my honor, I swear in the mask, I swear in everything, I will not leave this room. Second he closed that bathroom door, drunk me bolted to the door.
Absolutely.
And he could hear me in the bathroom open the door, and you just hear him yell, you son of a bitch.
No. Yeah. I don't know what it is that makes us do these things, Ian. I think it's the humor.
It's the free Roman spirit.
Yeah, it's that, and it's just the humor value too. Of like, you know what, this guy was the best guard anybody could want to protect them, and he's not going to be able to protect me. That's taking the power, but not for power's sake, but for humor value. So, it's like a punch in the balls. Always funny.
Absolutely, and it's like when my mind's going like that. The only thing I can think of is there's an adventure out there somewhere in this gigantic anime convention with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. There's a whole world to explore right now. I can't be held down by this small, tiny little box room. I gotta go.
And that speaks to the very spirit of this very podcast, Ian. That's what I'm thinking.
There you go.
Well, very, very, very cool. Yeah. So, I mean, you've been a busy person, as you know. I've mentioned before, I've been off Facebook for a while. I took a break for many months.
Yeah, that was kind of sad to see you go. So I'm glad you came back because I always liked seeing your little quips on Facebook and always got a good chuckle out of them.
Well, thank you. I missed it from a couple of different things. I'd miss events. And, I really missed kind of tuning in. And the thing I missed most about Facebook was being able to check in with people, find out what was going on in their lives. I didn't miss the weird trolley stuff, but that's everywhere on social media. So I
Yeah,
couldn't really blame Facebook for that or the
yeah,
people that much. I mean, we're all kind of a citizen of our environment. But yeah, I'm back. I promised not to go away again, just because it's such a pain in the ass to resurrect. I mean, all of my pictures and prior posts and all of that stuff, I downloaded the zip. And then
yeah.
what they do is, they give you 2 weeks to change your mind. If you log in 2 weeks, you get it back. Otherwise, it's gone. And so
Okay.
that 2 weeks was I'm like, I can do this. And then I did it and I'm like, okay, it's good. I think it was 5 months off. But then when I
Mm.
came back, I'm like, okay, who was I friends with again? I got to refriend them. And then there, the small contingent who weren't sure it was really me, the resurrection, the reconnecting of all connected apps, whether it be Twitter or Instagram or whatever. I'm like, okay, just if you don't want to use it, don't use it, but don't destroy it again. It's too much of a pain.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. So there have been some periods in time where I've gotten so sick of Facebook, but for me, that's almost like social suicide at this
Yeah,
point
likewise.
because everything from any party event going
Mhm.
on to even just talking to people on a daily basis, it's through Messenger, it's through Facebook. And when I tried to stay off it for a couple days, like here and there, and I'm just like I'm not talking to any of my friends now. And so it's one of those things like I kind of feel like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type
Yeah,
situation.
but you've always been better, and at at this, and I am now getting better at it. Of you still maintain the in person relationships. You'll go meet people at a bar or at a convention or whatever you do, and I've started doing
Hmm.
that a lot more. And it's been fun, because we're having a talk here. We would have the exact same talk if we were together.
At a bar, sharing a
Yeah,
couple of beers,
exactly. And
yeah,
so
do
it's
the exact
yeah.
same thing.
So this is true socialization in this venue, and it is in that as well. So yeah, I unknowingly chopped off a valuable outlet for myself.
And I think this podcast will only help you grow with that because it's, you're a very easy person. You're very down to earth, very easy to talk to. And that's what you kind of need to make something like this work.
Thank you. And it'll it definitely takes both sides, and everybody who has I guess for obvious reasons, everybody who has volunteered, for lack of a better word, to be on this
Uh,
is that way, and it's awesome. It's really cool. And I'll be interested in having people back to talk about specific things again, or just nothing, random stuff. It'll be fun to see how it plays, if people care. Either way, I'm doing it because I'm having a good time. And I know, for example, your
mm,
friends will enjoy listening to this, and a lot of my friends will enjoy hearing your story. And uh, yeah, it's just a good time.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I realized, I'm like, holy cow, we're already at 48 minutes. And the only thing I talked about with anime was partying at anime conventions.
Oh yeah.
So
Well,
we gotta go back to that. I gotta go do more justice for anime right
yeah,
now.
do it up now. I mean, okay, so because I can start because I know literally nothing other than like Akira and okay, I'm running out of speed here. So and I even watched part of the live action Netflix Akira not too long ago, and I got sidetracked with something else and I never finished it. So when it came around, I was already older. Well, I should say when it came around in the U.S. and
Yeah.
I didn't really have a way in. I didn't know a lot of people who were into it at the time, and
Uh-huh.
I saw a lot of big eyes, and usually it would be like some flash of a mini skirt and like, ooh, that kind of thing, kind of a caricature
Yeah.
American doing a 14-year-old Japanese girl. And I thought, I don't know if I'm supposed to like this or what happens here. So take it away, Ian.
uh, uh, no, it's one of those things. I really like where anime has gone. And I was never really into a lot of those big fan service animes. Every once in a while, like one or two catch my eye where you're like, okay, this is just too funny or silly that you gotta watch it. But for me, it became one of those things. Like I really got into anime with stuff like Cowboy Bebop,
Mm.
and it was actually thanks to on Cartoon Network, Toonami doing a whole lot of anime, like showing Gundam Wing, Dragon Ball Z. I mean, Dragon Ball Z for a lot of people my age was the big
Yep.
seller. Uh, but then you get an anime like Cowboy Bebop, where it's the space cowboy. It's you grow to get attached to the character. It sometimes gets really dark in the show, and I really liked that aspect. Uh, and anime has really been growing in America at a ridiculous rate. There was the big wave of the 70s and 80s anime, but that was a very niche group of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Who were really watching it. It wasn't accessible to everybody, and heck, even just trying to get a hold of anime in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s wasn't exactly easy. The only way I was able to get access to anime was through torrenting and
Sure.
downloaded sites. And like I want to support the industry, but there's no market here in America at that time really to make it widely accessible. You could go to like some of the stores in the mall like would have like a very small selection of like box sets
Hmm.
that they're charging a ridiculous amount for. And to buy 4 episodes of a 25 or 26 episode series, you could be paying 40 to $60 just for a
Oh,
couple
wow.
episodes. It wasn't a viable market. Uh, and then at the same time, the big thing was, especially like when I was in middle school, high school, it wasn't exactly like anime wasn't cool. It wasn't one of those things the cool kids were
Yeah.
doing. You didn't hear, oh man, let's go watch some Naruto. It's funny now because I'm seeing people like in their mid 30s now talking about Naruto like it's the hottest crap. Like, yeah, dude, I loved watching Naruto. I loved watching all these animes, and I'm like, why didn't you think it was cool before?
Yeah.
But anime's grown such a cool market here now because I mean you look at big TV broadcaster, you look at Netflix, Amazon Prime, they're now getting into the anime industry. Netflix is making exclusive
Oh,
anime
sure.
or getting rights to exclusive anime, and they're in a battle going back and forth with Amazon and Netflix, just going
Yeah,
nuts
and they
over it.
like animeifies, if that's a word, other products to turn them into anime. There's different shows that or things that started out as books or started out as different TV shows. All of a sudden, it's an anime. I mean,
Oh, absolutely! A great example right now is the series Castlevania on Netflix.
yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I've watched that. Yeah.
and they got the
I just want more.
yeah.
I want it to come back.
Well, they got 8 more episodes coming out in October, so
Sweet.
there you go. But it's like you get gems like that. Like those 4 episodes, there was a lot packed in those 4 episodes.
Yeah.
You had action, you had violence, you had gore, you had blood, but at the same time, you had this cool atmosphere.
Mm.
The characters were likable, and it
And the
just
voice acting was amazing in that. I really like that a lot.
I was really quite surprised at how good the voice acting is. I'm one of the guys like some of the anime I watched in the English dub when I was younger. I really like those, but then I had a hard time from maybe like 2004 to like 2011. I did not like any English dubs. I could only do Japanese subtitled.
Oh,
But
okay.
now that the anime industry has been growing a lot more here, they're starting to get better voice actors who are doing better jobs at it. And for example, like that Castlevania one, that was really well done. And you see more money going into the industry, and you're starting to get better products out of it, which is super exciting for me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you went into the detail on the voice stuff because I guess it hadn't really occurred to me that it was such a huge factor for me because I also would rather the only problem with subtitles is the second you read it, some real cool thing happens visually, and you're like, damn it, I wasn't
Hmm.
focusing on the sword or the explosion out of the window or whatever the hell it was, and that's
Uh-huh.
always a downfall. So I'd rather have a really good English actor do their
Hmm.
thing, or excuse me, English speaking actor, just for that. Although I truly appreciate because the emoting seemed up until these good English speaking actors to be much more genuine in the native tongue, you know. It just, you could hear the emotion a little bit more than somebody just kind of phoning it in who has a pile of animes they have to voice act, that week in some
Yeah,
voice acting sweatshop in the 90s.
I definitely agree with that, because one of the things that made it really hard for me to watch some English dubs uh, were a lot of the female voices, actually. A lot of them always just seem to have the "I want to speak to your manager" situation going on. And so they'd be trying to play, like, if you'd watch it in Japanese, the girl would have like a very like smooth, calming, relaxing voice, like seem like pretty upbeat or something. And then you go watch the exact same scene in English dub, and you're just like, okay, Kathy, excuse me, you can calm down and put the mocha choca away and just chill
Oh
out
yeah,
with whatever
always
you got going.
pissed. Yeah, just
Always,
always
always.
frantic and pissed.
And you sit there, and it completely ruins the show, because you're like, I'm supposed to like this character, and this is a main character. I'm stuck with this person for the rest of the show, and I can't stand her voice.
Yeah.
Great. Or some of the things like where like a character should have a deep voice, and some of the early dubs they give them like a super whiny voice, and you sit there, I can't stand your voice.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the show at that point? It's done. You're not going to like it.
Yeah. And I have to get back to it. I haven't finished it, but Sword Art Online, I watched most of that, and then I got, side swiped by something else. And every time I see it in my queue, I'm like, I really like the premise, but there's something about the female voice actors in it that all of them just sound the same, like stupid or certainly
I I
frantic.
I very much know what you're talking about. Oddly enough, I ended up was on YouTube after work, and they were showing a blooper reel for some Sword Art stuff that had come out recently, and it was in the English dub. And I was sitting there, I'm like, I don't like. And they're doing a lot
Yeah.
better in voices, but there's still sometimes, like, even with new stuff come out, where they don't always quite nail it or something like that, and kind of go, you're not really doing the character justice.
Yeah, especially when they spent all this amazing money and storyboarding time, production values to really make the everything else about it great. And even the sound effects and everything is just, and then they slip in, that. It's on, I don't mean to be shitting on, Sword Art Online. I
Dude,
really like it.
you would be in the majority of people right now. Sword Art Online was super popular when it first came out, and now it's like like there always seems to be like one anime that everyone just starts hating, and
Mm.
that's pretty much Sword Art Online right now.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it's a lot of people in the anime community just want to hate on it, because they're like, okay, we get it. All the women are swooning after him, and
Yeah, that's what turned me off about it. It just didn't seem, number one, he didn't even care, which was
yeah,
odd. But the other thing is, it just didn't seem realistic. I mean, I understood they appreciated him and what he was doing for them, but it was a
yeah.
little too like almost porn like in their
And
enthusiasm.
that's one of the biggest problems I have with the anime industry, is I get really tired after watching anime for 2 decades now. I get, it gets so boring. You're like, we get it, fan service, the girl swooning after the guy, cool. Can
Yeah.
we move past that phase now? Can we go? I forget what show it was I was watching recently. But they said the tone right away in the anime that there was no love interest or love story there, and that they were just two people of different genders that were working together.
Hmm.
And it was so refreshing to stop seeing, because you even see that a lot. Like, I get tired in action movies, like,
Oh yeah.
movies we see here. It's they throw in the random love plot or something like that, and you're like, this movie does not need it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully culturally the I like the buddy movie, and if the buddies happen to be of different genders or different chosen genders or whatever, and they don't have anything going on romantically, hopefully there's enough plot wise and quippiness and to hold it all together, and there certainly can be in there. you know it's refreshing because we all work with people in our
Mhm.
jobs,
Yeah.
and if every interaction had this like weird sexual undertone, I mean, that would be as tiring as seeing it in, in the animes as well. So,
I'm gonna be working remote for the rest of my life, is what's gonna happen. And I'm gonna put my my messenger to do not disturb, and please let me
nice,
just sit here and code. And
nice. Yeah, they'll just
uh,
bring you in when they have to with when they have security in place.
But it's one of the things that another thing I've really been enjoying is because Netflix, Amazon are getting into licensing from all these other studios, you are getting more anime. So one of the big problems in the anime industry right now is that a lot of the animation studios under really tight deadlines to pump out an anime super quick. And so what tends to happen is that you get an anime where they could have been wonderful, but just due to time restraints, things didn't work out perfectly.
Mm,
But at least by getting more anime out there, there's a bigger chance of you getting a quality gem.
gotcha. Sure.
Like for like for example, there was two anime last year on Amazon Prime, Made in Abyss and why am I? This is the problem I run into. I watched way too much anime, so I start forgetting the names. Made in Abyss, and there's another one. It's about like these characters that are made up of like different types of like diamonds and gems and stuff like that. But I had never heard of them.
Mm,
No clue. And then a bunch of sites do like year around like anime awards, like what they think were the best shows. And suddenly everyone's like, oh yeah, Made in Abyss. And it's really bugging me that I can't remember the name of the other show right now. But they're like, oh yeah, these were the best two anime of the year. And I'm like, I never even heard of these. And it's weird for someone who watches so much anime when you go like several months to almost a year after an anime has been released and you're hearing these gems out of nowhere.
yeah,
But
I
then you
go ahead.
but then you get super excited because you're like, oh man, I just got done watching a bunch of this stuff that wasn't that great, and then you find these hidden gems, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, I agree. Now there's so much content that I think we're moving out of the phase of having to feel guilty for not knowing about something to
Mm,
that sense of surprise and wonder when we discover something. And because I'm willing to admit, I simply do not have the time to keep. I'm interested in a lot of different things. A lot of people are interested in a lot of different things, and I
mm,
cannot know everything that's coming out, because if I do, then I have to click on everything that comes by my phone and then memorize that thing, and then
mm.
assuming it won't be displaced by the next thing. So I would much rather have somebody like you who I respect and go, hey, I know this shit. If you're looking for a good one, this is the one, because I don't even have time to watch what I want to watch already.
It's really funny that you said that because it made me think my friend Brittany, and one of the well, not really interesting, but just kind of silly. A couple people do come to me for anime recommendations, and then some people absolutely refuse to ever come to me for anime recommendations. There's a show out, an anime show out there. It's called Lucky Star, and I think it is on Netflix. It's either on Netflix or Amazon. It's a show is in the early 2000s, but it's a comedy anime about pretty much nothing. The first episode for 23 minutes, they sit there and talk about for pretty much like 23 minutes talk about how to eat a Japanese dessert, and it's like this cornet thing. It's like imagine like a donut with chocolate inside of it. One side's open and the other side's sealed. And they were talking about the correct way to eat this Japanese dessert.
Okay.
And what they do is they talk about it for a little bit, move on to another situation, and then randomly come back to talking about eating this Japanese dessert. And I found it absolutely hilarious because they're trying to play in the theme of just talking about absolutely nothing. And I found it absolutely hilarious. And there's like half of my friends who they hate the show, they want it burned, they want it to never exist. And then there's buddies like my buddy Dan Barrera, giving him a second shout out, who own the Lucky Star box set.
Yeah.
And it's so funny in that sense. Like in the anime scene, a lot of people are really diehard about which shows they like
Oh,
and they don't
sure.
like. And it gets to like my friend Brittany, she will never take an anime recommendation from me again. She's like, you only watch shit anime, shit tier garbage. Never taking an anime recommendation. And she has to remind me every time she sees me that my taste in anime
Now,
sucks.
is that because you lucky starred her and ruined her day?
No, she had. I'm sure she had seen it at some point uh, before I'd even met her.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's like I find that there's a very diehard line in anime where if you love an anime that someone else doesn't like, they immediately like judge every anime you like. They're like, you don't like any
Yeah.
good anime. You only watch trash anime.
And that's,
And
the tend to tribe up, and, people do that with music and, the religious affiliation with different gaming consoles to kind of bring it back to that. And it's also, I think, people, some people just think Monty Python is the dumbest thing ever and others don't. And, it's aesthetics versus, I don't know. I lost my train of thought on that one.
I get where you go. I get where you're going with that, and yeah, you can pretty much see that in anything. You get into sports, you have the people who have their favorite sports teams. You're a fan of that team. I hate that team. Your taste in sports team sucks. So yeah, you get that kind of across the board and everything. Oh man, I said sports, and I'm just excited to think that we are so close to football.
Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed for it. My wife is into it even more than I am, and I don't mean even more. She's into it more than I am. But I'm excited because we got a new TV, and we're going to see more detail. So
oh yeah,
that'll be cool to bring it on in. And
you got to make sure you see those spandex and that prime definition.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, got to get every little detail in there. Don't want to miss anything.
I'm sure we'll be pausing and rewinding constantly. Well, hey. Thank you very much. I think we have hit the end here.
We have. Wow, that flew by faster than I thought.
Yeah, this was fun.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even look up, and I'm like, oh, we're already at almost an hour and 10 minutes. Jeez.
No, it's excellent. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. We should definitely do this again. It was a blast. It makes me wonder why we haven't gone out for a drink.
Yeah, I'm thinking we'll have to remedy this at some point, because I don't want to wait till the next time I have to come on your show to sit down and shoot the shit.
Definitely. And that was our chat. I'm going to have to corner Ian for that drink during the long, dark winter of our soul here in Wisconsin. It is moments before October, which means it is raining every 45 seconds, including right now. So if you hear rain, that is because it is pounding on the windows of my studio right now. All right, a couple of corrections to prior episodes. In episode 1, I mentioned a podcast that talked about sitting versus squatting. That was Science Versus, which would be Science VS. Check it out. It's a very cool podcast. Also, Christy with one vowel at the end of her name, from episode 2, wanted to add she didn't necessarily want me to add the correction, but I'm doing it because this show is about honesty. So she called me out on the bit in that episode where Aldi and Trader Joe's were associated, per her. And in the outro to that episode, I had done a quick Googling, basically throwing a coin in the air and picking whatever face happened to fall off the internet to speak aloud. And I couldn't find in that immediate 4 seconds the association. So this is with regard to Theo Albrecht, and Christy said, "Hey, I'm calling out your Googling skills." So then she posted, quote, "In the U.S., he, meaning Theo Albrecht, owned the Trader Joe's specialty grocery store chain. His brother Carl owned the Aldi Süd discount supermarket chain. The two chains were originally a single-family enterprise until a friendly division of assets in 1960. Aldi Süd operates the Aldi groceries in the United States." So there you have it. I apologize, Christy, for not Googling or going to the always true and always honest Wikipedia for my information. So, well done. I salute you. I salute you, Christy, with one vowel at the end of your name, my factual nemesis. Okay, not really. Thanks a lot. It was very informational. I admit it was pretty cool to find out. And now this is really it for this week's episode. So please subscribe if you haven't done it. Please share it with your friends. Or if you hated the episode, share it with your rivals. Share it with your factual nemeses. I do. So until next week, spend the week in the light, the shining light of truth, justice, and happiness. And then on Monday, we'll go in deep again. Of course, you might be going deep all week. Maybe you live in the deep. Maybe you're rolling in it. I don't know. But come back to my deep. Okay? All right.